closet for like a week. So when the parents would leave, he'll find us food, and then in the middle of the night we'll sleep in the closet because we didn't want his parents to find out. Which I believe they probably knew, but they didn't say anything. And then we were 17, so we couldn't. I was working at Food Line at the time, and then from there we were able to find a acquaintance, a young couple that was barely starting out in life. They have a single wide place that they rented, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and then I was able to contact him and ask if we could stay with him. So we stayed with him for a few months until they kicked us out. Yeah.
And then what? Like you made your transition from getting married, moving out, and then you worked at Food Line. Take me through some jobs, like your job history. Like where did you start your first job, and then how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I had to quit Food Line because I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license.
Dude, so, listen to this shit, man. Like, listen, moved out, 17, 18, didn't graduate high school, lived in a closet, lived with a friend, didn't have a car. Man, this is like life story right here.
Yeah, so my wife and I was living with this friend, this couple friend, and then found out that my wife was pregnant. So we started working at a place. I don't know the name of that place yet, but it back then was called Mom and Pops. And if you think of these microwavable sandwiches, like a mid-rib type sandwich, chicken biscuit, well, this place was in Newton Conover, and we went and worked there. My wife and I did, and we worked enough to where I was able to save some money to buy our first car, which was a 1987 Nissan Maxima.
Oh, it's a great car.
Yep, that was our very first car. Bought it for, I can't remember if it was like $700 or $800. It was all rusted. The like seats were all tore up.
It's like $5,000 today.
Yeah. But so we bought that car, and we actually got kicked out. That couple kicked us out because they were young, and they were fighting, and then I should have kept my mouth shut. I kind of stepped in and said, hey, why don't you guys just kind of separate and calm down? And the wife was like, nah, you get the F out of my house and blah blah blah. So we left, and this was during winter time. So my wife and I, 17 years old, we couldn't rent anything, couldn't rent a motel, extended stay, hotel, or anything, and we live in a car. So I remember exactly like in Conover where we were at, and I was sleeping in the driver's side. My wife was sleeping in the passenger side, and then I'll wake up like every so often to crank the engine just to give it some heat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we turned 18, and then we was able to rent a very small 2-bedroom, 1 bath, single wide home. I think it was like $300 a month or something like that. I mean, this was like 20 something years ago, and that became the party house. So all my friends came over. They was like, "Oh, Lou got his own place," and they would come over and party and stuff like that. But 4 years later, my dad finally, reached back out, and by then, my son was 4 years old, my oldest son. And he's like, "I want to have a relationship with my grandson," and then we went back and made up. And then I finally realized when I was like 28, I'm like, crap, all that thing that Dad told me, shoot, he was right. Like, he's the smartest man I know, and so we had a good relationship all the way till he passed away.
Oh man, sorry about that. It's funny you said that because my son Colby is 20, and he is going through the head case of knowing everything.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me the other day. He goes, "Dad, you're right. You're right. Don't tell him. I know you're right." And it was something to do with something that advice I had given him, and he went the other way. And then he calls me like 3 months later. He's like, "Well, yeah, Dad, you're right."
Yeah.
So it's cool that, here's the thing. When you're young, I was the same way with my dad. I'm sure you were the same way, Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, when my kids were younger, still in high school, we used to play a lot of golf. And so we remember at a private country club. And my second son, Matthew, he takes a lot of golf lessons, and he also plays a lot. So whenever I take him to the golf lesson, I'll just sit and watch and know what the swing coach is teaching him. And so I understand his swing pretty well. And one day we were out playing, and he was playing really bad. I'm like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is how you fix it. So the whole round, I'm like, this is what you got to do. And then he got so frustrated because of his game, not because of me telling him. And then so he stayed there later. And then when he got home, he's like, Dad, I fixed my swing. I'm like, oh, how did you fix it? And he's like, yeah, my friend was watching me swing, and he told me that how I needed to fix my swing. I don't remember what it was, but
The same thing you were telling me.
yeah, I was like, that's what I've been telling you. And he was like,
So you have two boys.
yep,
How old are they now?
28 and 24.
20 and 24.
Mhm.
And how old are you?
I'm 46.
46.
Yeah.
Okay, so from 18 to 46. Okay, got the math. And you have gravitated from Hickory, and where do you live now?
I live in Maiden, so I still live in that area.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you started a business on your own, or did you go work for someone and then kind of get out on your own? That story is the one I want to hear.
Yeah, so my story is kind of like the book written, the E-Myth written by Michael E. Gerber, right? I went to work for someone. So I went and got my GED, and then went to college and got a 2-year degrees in computer engineering technology degree. And then during that time when I was going to school, we had 3 kids already. So my 2 boys and my daughter. My daughter is 23 now. And my wife didn't know how to drive then. And so I was going to school, daytime, Monday through Friday, part-time. And then I was working a second shift at a textile plant from 3 to 11. And on the weekend, I was a shift leader at Bojangles. And so I was pulling in anywhere from 65 to 70 hours a week plus school. So when I graduated with my 2-year degrees, it took me 4 years. And I came out not knowing anything. And then I ended up at this mom and pop guy shop. They ended up hiring me, not because I knew what I was doing, but because they needed someone. So I tell a story of I walked in on day one, and I'm looking around. And I was like, who's going to train me? And he said, you're it. I was like, wait a minute, I'm entry level. I was like, I know why I know, and I don't know anything, so I can't do the job. It's like, no, I need you to do the repairs. So he hired me as an electronic tech, and that's where I had to learn how to do things myself.
What were you fixing as an electronic tech? Like when you hear electronic tech, Garrett, what do you think?
Oh, you think of computers, you think of the small, cell phones, things like that, iPhone repairs.
Was it computers? Was it computers?
No, so these electronics is industrial electronics.
Like what?
So when you drive around and you see these big manufacturing plants, whether they're in the food industries, pharmaceutical, textile, plastic injection molding, whatever, you have these machines that's making a widget, making a product, and you have the controls, which controls consist of electronics, right? That's what we were repairing.
The automation.
Yeah, automation.
This kid has no freaking experience, and he's out there working on high-tech electrical processes that make people money, and he could be screwing some shit up pretty quick.
No, I mean,
that wasn't an option.
Yeah,
it was basically keep working on it until it gets fixed, right?
Well, I teach people how to do that now, and I say there's 3 levels to a tech. Level 1 is a parts changer.
Okay.
Which from day one I was just parts changer.
Okay.
So I'm looking at I'm just changing out parts.
Got it.
To
Okay.
see if it works.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the first parts that go bad?
Yeah. The
biggest.
biggest.
If you go to somebody calls you and says, "Hey, you're new entry level," and they go, "Oh, let me come change that part." What's like the first 1, 2, 3 parts that you have to change?
You're talking about like parts on a printed circuit board.
Whatever you were doing at the entry level when your first 2 or 3 jobs, like go on your first call, like what did you change? What parts did you change?
Well, this was a in the shop type, so they'll bring this stuff into us.
Ah, okay, got it. I'm thinking field tech. I'm thinking you're going to the facility and you're working on a piece of equipment and you're like, machine went down. So they're bringing you like things for you to change.
Yeah. So there was this group of sales guys where they'll go from plant to plant and pick up any kind of electronics that had went bad.
Got it.
And then they'll bring it to me, and then that's where I will repair it.
Oh, right on. So how big of electronics? Like you have a table that you work on and solder and do any of that kind of thing?
Yeah, we do all that.
That's
why I saw that solder over there. I was like,
that's our producer, Micah. He is a MacGyver on everything.
Yeah.
Except going live on Facebook. I'm just kidding. It's all good. Now that's an interesting story. So how long did you work for this company doing electronic repair?
I think it was right around 5 months or so.
Only 5 months. Really?
Only 5 months.
And then you have a backstory to this where one of the vendors, I think, was getting serviced, and then he wanted to approach you. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were actually the sales guy. They were the sales team. So they were going from plant to plant, picking up electronics, bringing it to my boss during that time, and then I ended up repairing it. And I told them that one day I accidentally dropped my check and it bounced higher than the ceiling. So they were writing me bounce checks. I didn't find out until like 3 weeks later, until the bank sent me a bunch of bills
That were
or
paid.
fees, yeah, saying that, hey, those checks you wrote were insufficient to cover.
And this
the
was
check.
20 years ago, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And what were you making as far as a wage? I'm
Man,
just curious.
when I first got out, I was working so my job, I was making like $8 something at my full-time job at the factory, and then
$8 an hour.
yeah, 8 something.
What were you making at Bojangles?
Bojangles, I was probably making like 7 something.
Wow.
As a shift leader.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then when you got this electronics job,
man, I
$10?
no, I was making $14 an hour,
Oh, there you go.
and I felt
You felt
proud.
like the man.
Yeah,
You walking around with your chest high.
I'm like, hey, I'm a professional now. I'm
Yeah.
an electronic tech.
Okay, that's
like
cool.
I'm not a fast food employee anymore.
I mean, you got to take pride. I mean, anything that you do for a living, you got to take pride in it. When I got out of college and sold cars, and then I got out of cars and I started tinting windows, I had all my friends that worked at like Cisco Systems, banks. They looked at me like I was an oil change mechanic. I almost like I was a second-rate citizen in the world. And with the way the Facebook and social media, with the cars and the car scene and the way the shops look now, I got doctors coming in here and going, bro, I want your job. They love cars. They love what we do. The car culture's changed. But years ago, 20 years ago, I was in a backwoods shop with one light that barely worked that was fluorescent, and and a sliding glass door as a peel board.
Yeah.
I mean, I got pictures of when I started, and I'm like, yeah, I did look like an oil change mechanic. I did. And then I wasn't allowed to play golf with my friends. They thought of me as a second-rate citizen.
Really? Wow.
I'm not kidding. Like this is no bullshit. Like what you did for a living. Even though I have a college degree, I wasn't welcome to play poker at their house, and I wasn't welcome to play golf. And what I mean by welcome is I was never invited. It was always like, Mike is my car guy. I want my windows tinted. They would call me whenever they bought a new car.
Yeah.
But they were my buddy as soon as they bought a new car. Hey, buddy, what's up, man?
Yeah.
You hooked me up last time. And I just had to gravitate towards a whole new realm of new friends and new people, new culture. And so in my world, it was very, it was hurtful. So I just felt like I just grinded and grinded, and the only thing I knew how to do was just work and make money, and that was the only measuring stick to me was money. I buy a big house, I buy a nice car. So Garrett, I think I told you this story. I said when I got a nice house and got a nice car, because I hard worked and saved my money and had good credit, I was a drug dealer. Couldn't have been hard work. It couldn't have been that I worked my butt off 7 days a week for 15 years and saved my money. No, I was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
So, but it's just crazy how the world looks at people. But now that's a remarkable story. So your sales guy approached you. I'm going to get back to that, and then said, "Hey, you went out on your own to help this guy." Tell me that story.
Well, they actually approached me because they knew that they were going to lose me if my employer went out of business.
Right.
Which that was where they were heading to.
Right.
And so they approached me and they say, Lou, we really love the work, and we'll help you stay in business.
Were the sales guys making money off of you at that time? Like were they willing, hey, I'm going to bill you out at this, and they're going to bill the customer at this?
Yeah. So
they were like a broker.
Yeah. Well, basically what they do, like a broker. So they'll go in, they build a relationship, and they'll get the repairs. They'll bring it to us. We'll repair it, and then we'll charge them a certain amount of price. So they'll take it in, and then they'll upcharge it.
How long did it take you to get going from when you left? And what did you tell your previous employer? If your checks didn't bounce, and was he just mismanaging money? Tell me that conversation.
I have no idea. I have no idea. They were. I know that they were in the process of going through a separation.
Ah, got it.
But besides that, I have.
How'd you tell
no
your
idea.
boss that you were leaving?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
You just never showed up.
Mike, that was like 20 something years ago. I'm just trying to remember.
So when you opened up a facility, where did you do it? Did you do it at your house? Did you get a building? Did you rent something?
No. So with my dad being an entrepreneur, I went back to my dad.
Okay.
I was like, hey, Dad, they approached me with this opportunity, and keep in mind it was like 5 6 months after I graduated college. Right? I was like, Dad, I don't have any money. I think it's a good opportunity. What do you think? And he was like, go for it.
Your dad coached you?
Yeah. He was like,
Did
you
he
need
fu-
the money?
Did he fund you?
Oh yeah, he did.
What did he start you out with capital wise? Like 10 grand?
It was somewhere around there. And later, I mean, he's
That's like 50 today, Garrett. I'm just kidding.
so he gave me enough money to put in the first month's lease.
Okay.
So the place was like 1,500. So for that, and then deposit, and then he also funded for all to open up everything, like your electricity.
What kind of equipment did you need to service it? Like, you know, there's certain tools that you needed?
Yeah. You need your solder, your multimeters. There's certain test equipment that you need. I mean, you need to buy your workbench, your parts to do the repairs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these things that you would need, and he funded all those things.
Did you pay him back?
No, he's my dad.
That's what my son says all the time. He's like, Dad.
That's what dads are for. Like, so like yesterday I did a lunch and learn, right? And Patrick, you met Patrick,
Mm-hmm.
my oldest son.
Yeah.
I was like, hey son, you come into lunch and learn? And he's like, no. I said, why? He's like, because I didn't pay for it. I said, what do you mean you didn't pay for it? He said, well, it's a paid event. I was like,
you're my son. You should be here.
yeah. I said, hey, did you suddenly got like stupid or something? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, do you realize that when I die, everything I have is going to be passed to you?
I've already told my kids 1,000 times. I was like, you want to spend your inheritance now, or do you and have fun together, or you know, my thing is, and I heard this in the car business from a guy, and I'm living by this. I'm going to die with $1 million in debt, and it's going to be with 70 to 75. I'm going to take out all the credit I can, because everything I own is going to be in a trust, and other people are going to own it, and I'm going to own nothing at 70. So all my personal credit is going to be me with a motor home.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a $500,000 motor home. I'm going to hire me some Daisy Dukes girl driving me around. Some country girl. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just going to have a driver, and we're going to go. I want to tour the country in an RV and just go around and just live a year on the road and have fun. But I want to take out as many credit cards as I can. I want to buy as much as I can on credit. And then I will slowly pay back whatever, you know, I can in payments.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to sell all this shit when I die. It's basically, my kids are like, I gave you everything over here. It's over here protected. But my personal shit, I'm buying the baddest freaking RV there is. Like, you know, I'm going to look like the Rolling Stones going down the road. What do you think, Garrett? You like that idea?
Not a bad idea. It'd be interesting to see how everything turns out.
I love it.
Thankfully, we don't have to. We don't have an immediate answer on that.
Yeah, I think one thing my dad told me, he said, son, I'm going to hopefully manage my money correctly, so when I die, you've got to pay for the funeral.
Yeah.
He said, if I cash out, like, I timed it just right. You know, there's an expiration date. I want to make sure that my bank account ends kind of in that same.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, you started your own business. Your dad funded you. You got mentored and coaching by your dad. And how long did it take you to get up and running and get profitable at your new business?